Hello and good morning. Thank you for tuning in. You are tuned in to The Encourager. I am sounding a little stuffy because I am going through another ascension currently. And when you're going through ascensions, you experience all sorts of things. As I've mentioned, you experience cold symptoms, you experience joint aches and body aches, back aches, especially for me. But this time it's not backaches, it's this cold or cold symptoms. I don't have a cold, and I rarely need to blow my nose. I don't get colds. And just like I don't get headaches. And so when I do, those things when I don't get them regularly, right? It's not some type of medically diagnosed anything. So I don't have a problem with headaches. I don't have back issues. I don't have headache issues. I don't have those issues. So I don't get colds. I don't deal with stuff like that. I go for big things. I get transplants. So I want to, first of all, thank you again for tuning in as always. New subscribers, thank you so much for tuning in. We were on 44 likes for the last couple of days, which I loved because the synchronicities have been just on just level gajillion recently, and I really think it was since the 222 portal. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. What I actually want to share this time around is what it means to be divine bait. Okay, and that's B-A-I-T, just like you would use when you fish, bait. Okay, I remember a show, I think it was called Car Bait, where they would set up these cars, like leave the keys in the car and all of that, right, to bait these thieves into stealing these cars. And I think it was pretty successful. But what does it mean to be, and first of all, the first thing that comes to mind is willingness. So, as we know, Most High, Divine Source, Yahweh, Lord of the Spirit, Ancient of Days, Divine Source, Divine Creator, however you refer, El Shaddai, Elohim, however you refer to the deity. And so, in fact, I blew my nose twice yesterday. I never blow my nose. I never have to blow my nose. But such as it is when you're going through a spiritual ascension. When we are birthed here, okay, as I've mentioned, we all come here having already signed a contract in the ethers. Okay, we've already signed a contract before we were birthed into this natural place. And that contract says in some way, shape, form, or fashion that we are willing to be divine bait. Okay? And so as bait, what is bait used for? Well, bait, and I'm not a fisherman, right? I'd love to learn how to fly fish. And I'm sure I will at one point. I'm going to pick that up for sure. But that's for my peace and tranquility more than anything. And it just looks like, I don't know. I just always think of the movie with Brad Pitt, and I can't remember the other actors' names, but A River Runs Through It. It's one of my one of those endearing movies, and it came out in the early 90s, I believe, and so one day, I'll learn to do that. But today, I can't go into all the bait and tackle and all that because I have no idea lures. I don't know one lure from another, so I'm not that type of fisherman today. But I am a fisherman of men. And just as Yeshua ordered us in the Great Commission, I'm that type of fisherman. And so what it means to be spiritual or divine bait, I'm calling it divine bait, okay? So when you are divine bait, you are used to expose the enemy. Regardless of who the enemy is, the enemy could be your friends, your family members, and often it's the people closest to you, by the way. Just as a heads up, if you have not experienced that, or perhaps you're in the middle of it, or you're wondering what is going on, it's often the people that are closest to you. Okay? Investigative professionals have found this out, right? And this is why the first thing when a wife goes missing, the first person is the husband, the boyfriend, right? The ex-lover. And same thing when a man goes missing. First is the woman. And more so today, I think that is really starting to even out. I think Eileen Warnos opened our eyes to see that women can absolutely be as deadly as men. Okay? And so that double standard is really going away, and hopefully it reaches our courtroom soon. I don't think it has yet, or our legal system. But when you are divine bait, you are, honestly, quite honestly, as I'm standing here, Most High is like, you all are. Right? But we can only live out that contract if we choose to take up our cross and walk in that direction. And we all have a cross to bear, right? And it doesn't matter what that cross is, but that cross is your contract. That is your esoteric contract. That's what that is, okay? And so, what you should expect when you are divine bait, you should definitely expect a long period of what the hell. You should expect a long period of that, right? And again, in my case, my situation, it started from infancy, with the sperm donor doing spell work against me since I was a child, because he knew who I was called to be. He knew my contract because his father taught him witchcraft, and he used that witchcraft to look into my Akashic records or use a Ouija board, which he used often, and maybe still does. I don't know. He's incarcerated today, so I don't know what access he has. Although he's a pretty slick and smart guy, I mean, you don't stay on the run from authorities for 30 plus years as a polygamist, moving from place to place, and be a dumbass. So he's a smart guy, right? He just chose to use his shit to build an atomic bomb, right? And several of them, instead of leaving the world a better place than when he left it. Fortunately, I have chosen to go a different route. And the jury's still out on whether or not he's even the sperm donor. So, but anyway, he knew who I was, okay, before I was consciously aware, long before I was consciously aware. I became consciously aware to some degree as a kid. That's why I would ask him questions about taking vacations from church, because rules were just so dumb as a child. They were just, I'm like, how can we not go to the movies? How can we not, what? How can we do that? And what? How does a movie, as a kid, like, those rules just didn't make sense to me. Women couldn't wear makeup, they couldn't wear pants or shorts, and all that dumbass shit just didn't make sense to me. And I was a kid, right? And I remember asking him, can we take a break from this? And he was like, no, unfortunately, son, you can't take a break from from God. He was a minister, also polygamist and minister. And so, or at least that's what he called himself. He was a minister of something, not the gospel. And so you have to understand what is going to be required of you if you are willing to go on this journey, if you are willing to fulfill your contract. So when you're divine bait, you are used to expose the enemy. I often say that I show up for one of three reasons: either karma, exposure, or healing. Those are the three reasons I show up, okay? And in someone's life. It doesn't matter how I meet them. It doesn't matter how. They could be a tax client. I am brought into their life, or they are referred to me, even if they're asleep spiritually, they are referred to me for one of those three reasons. They don't even know it. Okay? Same thing with you. Okay? Whatever your spiritual gifts are, you should find those things out, and more than your spiritual gifts, because that's kind of a shallow thing. More than your spiritual gifts, you need to find out what your spiritual contract with Most High is. What did you sign in the ethers that you need to fulfill here? And when you find that out, it will all make a lot more sense to you, especially the past. Okay? Most people live in the past. No, you don't need to live in the past. You need to understand the past and why things happened in the past. But to live there, to dwell there, that's a hindrance. Okay? So being divine bait, it means that, and I forget the guy's name. I listened to him many, many, many years ago. I wish I could find him online, but and I guess if I took probably an hour to look for him, I probably could, I guess. But it was probably 10 years ago or so that I heard this guy and listened to several of his videos online. He was talking about running silent and running deep, and spiritually what that means. I remember reading the book, The Change Agent, and in fact, let me look this book up. And I actually gave this book to Steve Parker at one time to read. I don't think he got around to it. He's a busy man, but he's the senior minister at the Rock of Central Florida, where I was for 20 years. For those of us who are new listeners or who are not familiar with his name. And that Rock of Central Florida, that place is in Sanford, Florida. Okay? I'm firing up the laptop. I'm going to see who the author is of that book, The Change Agent. But in that book, he is talking about becoming a change agent for Most High and what that means, and how you will have to run silent, run deep, because you're called to a mission to raise the vibration of the earth. And you are a change agent. Okay? And so most of us, most people, humans, are far too focused on the 3D and what's tangible to them, to the point that the intangible things are completely ignored often. Okay? But as divine bait, okay, you are called to awaken those individuals. Okay? And so, as always, I always ask a question, and I always ask a question because I like to stir your spirit, your energy, to stir that up, to see where you're at, right? I remember always wanting to volunteer for deployments in the military, because I always wanted to be battle tested. I didn't want to just sit at home and go to the field for 30-day exercises and all of that. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go out there and show that all the training that they had put into me was was up to par to defend our freedom. You know, I was that type of soldier, you know. I loved the uniform. I sleep in it. I wasn't eager to get out of it. I loved polishing my boots. I didn't, at some point I stopped, at some point, you know, it wasn't a pleasure to iron and starch all of my uniforms by myself, so I would take those to a cleaners. But, you know, I love shining my boots. You know, I love getting my new beret and shaving my beret down and shaping it and all of that. I love that stuff, you know. And that's just me. But I found out that I'm a spiritual warrior. I'm a soldier. That's who I am. That's why I went into the military in the first place. And it fit me like a glove. And I only got out because Most High was guiding me to at the end of year 8. And so, and again, there's another 8. And so, spiritual divine bait means you're going to have to take risks. There are going to be times when you walk alone. There are going to be times when you feel alone, even though you may not be. So if you have a family, right, you're not physically alone. But never, ever, ever forget, okay, that your spiritual journey is yours and yours alone. Most High is not going to ask your spouse about your spiritual journey. And he's not going to ask you about your spouse's spiritual journey. He's not going to do that. And you're not liable for them, and they're not liable for you. Okay? This is an individual journey ultimately. Okay? And this is why I've decided the best way for me to function is as a celibate male, divine feminine. That's what I've decided. 17 minutes exactly when I look down at the timer. 17:00. Okay? Blood transplant 7717. Blood filter transplant. And so, are you willing? Here's my question for today for us to think about. Right? Are you up for the challenge of being divine bait? Are you up for the challenge? For most of people don't like to be used, but the truth is we all use other people. What we really want to say is we don't want to be abused. That's what we really want to say. People are like, you just used me. We're using everybody. I used the cashier when I went to the store yesterday. We use everybody. Yeah, right? Or the person who bagged your groceries, we use everybody. There's no way around that, right? If you go to the bank and you speak to a teller, you're using them. I mean, you use everybody. Again, the words that man speaks and the definitions don't always match up. You know, one in the hand is not better than two in the bush. That's procrastination, right? And that's stagnancy. Whatever you have in your hand, you need to be willing to let go to go after the more. And that's by divine guidance, not by greed. Okay? So, being divine bait means this. It means you're probably going to have to deal with people who send evil lies towards you because they're going to be jealous of your shine. Think you're weird for what you're doing. Think you're strange for what you listen to. Why did your life change? Why are you this way now? Because I'm spiritual bait. I'm divine bait. What are you catching? Enemy, Luciferians, Jezebelians. Those are the ones I'm catching. The ones who are doing satanic rituals against other people. Catching those individuals. Those individuals who are karmic, who unalive people, right? And the law enforcement is slow as hell to solve the fucking case. And so it goes on for decades. I'm here to solve those motherfuckers in weeks. That's why I'm here. Okay? Do away with science, right? Stop leaning so heavily on science. And let's get back to being intuitive, spiritual gangsters and investigators. Okay? Let's get back to being spiritual investigators and spiritual assassins. Let's get back to that. Taking out the enemy who is really, truly coming against divine. And those who come against you in whatever way, if they do witchcraft against you, as a chosen one, they're also doing witchcraft against Most High. They don't see it like that. The enemy doesn't see it like that. And then the enemy wonders why the backfire is so severe. Because if you do it unto one, you do it unto all. So here's some good things about you accepting this call to be divine bait. One, you're going to be protected on all sides. Guaranteed. If you say, here I am, send me, I will follow my intuition, listen to my ancestors who are guiding me, right? Because they see things that we do not hear in the natural, right? And so, generally speaking, I don't lean on anyone. I don't. No one's on this journey with me. I'm not consulting with anyone. I don't go to therapy. I never have. I walk this thing my goddamn self. And there's nothing anybody can say about it, stop me, because they've tried. It's not going to work, right? Because I'm here like you are on divine assignment, whether you are fulfilling that assignment every day or today or not. Okay? I hope that you are, if you're tuned in, or at least you're starting to, right? You are starting to get the crust out of your eyes and wake up to some real truth here and get some answers about, oh, this is why I had that dream when I was, oh, this is why that happened. Oh, here I was fighting for that relationship. Oh, this is why that fell apart, right? You start to get downloads about your situation and how you are to move, right? And that gentleman whose name I can't think of, who I saw on YouTube years ago, he was talking about that. Your moves and how you need to move spiritually in order to be this spiritual assassin, this change agent, as I read in that book. And let me look that up and let me see. Let me see. Excuse me for sniffling again. I'm dealing with the spiritual ascension. So let's see here. I wish I could remember the author. I'm so bad with names. I remember a face 50 years from now. But not a face. Or excuse me, not a name. Let me see. Again, I hope you're doing well today, wherever you are, whenever you find yourself coming across this. Doesn't look like I'm gonna find it. Yeah, it doesn't look like I'm gonna find it. Let me see. Oh, there it is. Whew. Thank you, Most High. All right, so it is The Change Agent, and let me show you the book. Okay, and this is on the screen, but it is the agent called change. I'm sorry, I was calling it the change. The agent called change. Okay, all right. Rid yourself of the world's influences and stereotypes. Maximize your God-given potential as you discover the real you after the veil has been lifted. That's what the summary of the book says. Okay? And again, it's the change agent. There's the author, Marlon Wiggins. All right? Oh, and speaking of Wiggins, I mentioned the other day about a gentleman in the early 1900s. His name is Wigglesworth. I think I said Wiggins. It's Wigglesworth is his name. And he did some miraculous things. I mentioned him kicking a dead baby infant off the I don't know, altar, pulpit, stage, whatever, right? And the baby being made alive after the mother brought the baby to him. And I think I'm going to actually order that book again. And this child was made alive again, right? And he was known for these things, okay? And so as you go about your day today, I challenge you to consider the contract, again, that all 7 to 8 billion of us signed in the ethers before we were both birthed into this place this lifetime. And I actually believe that we signed this contract eons ago. We are given multiple opportunities, multiple lifetimes to fulfill it. Okay? And if you want to be an agent of change, an agent called change, if you want to be that divine bait, okay? If you are a spiritual warrior and you've known this, it's not a surprise, okay? You may have kept it under wraps for a minute, right? A couple decades maybe, maybe letting out a little bit here and there. But now is the time, okay? Now is the time. And at this time, in this place, as we just hit 27 minutes, it is the time, okay? For those who are willing to take up their mantle, that contract, and fulfill it, that's exactly what Most High is saying today. So are you willing to be divine bait? Are you willing to go silent, go deep? And I don't mean not talk. I mean filter out all that no longer serves you. Okay? For your higher self. For your higher good. Not giving not allowing the enemy to be privy to all that you do. Okay? So I share a lot with you all here on this channel, but I certainly don't tell you everything. I don't tell you all of the communication that I have with my ancestors and my extraterrestrials, and I don't dispel all of that, right? Because for one, that's dangerous. You never tell the enemy everything. You don't do that. The enemy gets their information, and you don't even tell your soldiers everything. In the military, you are on the need-to-know basis. And if you don't need to know in that given point in time, trust me, you're not going to, they wouldn't tell you. Okay? And so, again, I encourage us today to answer that question. Are you willing to be divine bait? Are you willing to go into the ethers, into the depths, spiritually, of the ugly places, in the face of the public, when the cameras are on, when the lights are on, when CNN is watching, when Fox News is watching, when the journalist is interviewing you? Are you willing to speak the truth? Right? I look forward to the day when I have the opportunity to stand in front of whatever public it happens to be. They're going to be shocked at the shit that comes out of my mouth, because I'm not afraid. And so when I stand up and say, I first thank Most High my ancient ancestors, Sekhmet, Maat, Nefertiti, Ra, Osiris, Anubis, Anunnaki, Horus. When I stand up and say those things, it's like Tim Tebow when he had John 3:16 written under his eyes when he was at Florida. It's ridiculous how many people had to look up what John 3:16 said. And I don't like the Bible today because it's half-assed done and it's been changed so much. You really need to throw it away and start all over. And that's why I share the lost books on this platform, because the Bible is shitty today. Okay? There hasn't been a church that Most High has been pleased with in 400 years. That means not the Rock of Central Florida, not the First Baptist Church on what's happening now. That means not the AME Church. That means not the Church of God in Christ. That means not the Pentecostal Church. That means the Methodist Church. That means the Mormons. That means the Latter-day Saints. That means the Catholics. That means all of them. That's what that means. None of them have looked like what I've wanted in 400 years. So Most High is done. Most High is fed up dealing with a karmic earth. What part are you going to be? What are you going to be a part of, is what I should say. Okay? Thank you so much for tuning in. I will be sharing our angel numbers coming up here next. You've been tuned into The Encourager. My name is Nehru. And thank you so much as always, and be encouraged.